Okay, everybody, it is me, Gregory Mannarino. It is Tuesday, August 23rd, 2022. People, I want to start off with some economic news because some of this here is it's really setting the stage for what is coming in. And you're not going to be surprised at all. I believe, as being a part of this big family we have here, and that's what this is. It's a global family. This isn't just Gregory Mannarino's thing. This is our thing. Okay, it's our thing. You're not going to be shocked here. First of all, let's start off with this. So yet another retailer is coming out warning about a weak consumer. This time it is Macy's. I mean, we have, corporation after corporation after corporation. They're all saying the same thing. The consumer is weak. Our business is slowing down. Okay, that's all well and good, but it gets even worse than that. So we just found this out here. This is just this morning. 50% of employers expect job cuts moving forward into 2023. 50%. Now, what did we find out just the other day? 30% of U.S. small businesses are slated to close. I mean, they're going to shut down forever moving into 2023. Does this sound like a recession to you, or does this more sound like a depression to you? Yeah, that's exactly what this is here. The middle class is literally being eliminated. They're being exterminated. And this is no surprise to a single one of you that follow this blog. In my opinion, it's going to get a lot worse moving forward here. What central banks have done, none more so than the Federal Freak Show Reserve, is weaponize the financial system against the middle class. How are they doing this? Well, let's think about this. Inflation is surging out of control globally. Okay, who's responsible for the financial system? Duh, exactly. It's central banks. Inflation is largely or is a byproduct or a side effect of monetary policy that's gone completely wrong. Well, I don't think we can call this wrong. They're doing this deliberately. They're doing this deliberately, people. They're continuing to inflate. How many years have I explained this to you? But again, we're not ever going to hear this from a single mainstream outlet. What you will hear is, the Federal Reserve has certainly gained credibility because they're fighting inflation by nudging that federal funds rate, little incremental raises in the federal funds rate. And that's really going to combat inflation. It's doing nothing. Zero. When are people going to wake up? Look, over the last several FOMC meetings, we've watched them nudge that federal funds rate higher. We had two back-to-back 75 basis point hikes and then maybe two 50 basis point hikes to the overnight rate, the federal funds rate. It hasn't done a damn thing to stop inflation. In fact, it's getting worse. What we have seen, I don't even want to give credit where credit's due because there isn't any, is we have seen the price of crude oil fall. But this is a phenomenon of the midterms. You look back on every single midterm election here in the United States, you see the same phenomenon. By some miracle, crude oil just happens to fall. People get a little relief at the pump, and they feel like, the current administration is doing such a great job. We're going to have to keep them in office. This is what they do. The Federal Reserve plays the same game with every single administration. Understand? And right after the midterms, boom, energy prices go up. I have no doubt at all that energy prices are going to continue to surge. You have to realize what you're looking at here. Let me calm down for a moment here. The U.S. dollar's absolute value, is literally falling off of a cliff here. Henceforth, while we're seeing inflation, and what's going on here? Central banks continue to buy. You have policymakers and retarded presidents, I don't care, I said it, coming up with this reason, that reason, another reason to pull cash into the now. Hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars. And they want to try to convince you that this is not inflationary. Since you know how money works, you realize it is inflationary. Every single dollar created magically out of thin air, added to a digital screen, number one, has to be borrowed. We don't have it. The United States is the most indebted nation in the history of the world. Okay, all this cash that's created for Inflation Reduction Acts and whatever other thing our so-called lovely policymakers want to do has to be borrowed from the Federal Reserve, is more than willing to lend. What's the goal of the Fed and every single central bank? You know what it is, to be the lender and buyer of last resort, so they can control the freaking world, which they are already. And every single dollar created magically is inflationary, because that dollar has to suck value from every other existing bill in whatever form it is, whether it's digital or printed. Okay? When they make a dollar, you know this. I did a whole video on this recently. It's not just automatically worth a dollar. It has to pull purchasing power from every other existing bill. Henceforth, it is inflationary, but you're not allowed to know that. Imagine for a nanosecond we had a single leader, a real leader or a president that told you that that's how it works. They all understand, people. You have to realize what I'm telling you. Every single member of Congress, including the president, our current president too, realizes that every single dollar that a central bank is called upon to issue makes the central bank stronger. It weakens the world. And it creates slaves on an incredible scale. Okay, debt slaves. That's all central banks do, is issue debt. They manipulate debt. That's it. They're one product. So when you hear a central banker, yet again, talk about the tools in their toolbox, okay, they only have one. It's how they're going to rig the debt market, rig the debt as a whole. That's all they do. Anyway, with that said, I want to hear from you. What do you think about this? 50% of employers expecting job cuts moving forward, and yet again, 30% of U.S. small businesses, which are mostly run by the middle class, slated to close. Does that sound like a recession to you? No, it sounds like a depression. Let me tell you something else in case you don't know, and I know you do if you follow this blog. It's getting much worse moving forward. I'm telling you. This is, I'm waiting. I'm still waiting for people to take to the streets. I'll be waiting until I die, because it's not going to happen. Okay? People are just, they've become sheep, all of them, and they're marching, willingly marching into the slaughter. And they wonder why inflation is getting higher and higher, while the Fed says they're combating it, they're fighting it. Yeah, we're going to bump that federal funds rate. You and I have known since day one that wouldn't work. We spoke about it right here on this blog. But the lie is continually being propagated by the freaking propaganda ministry. Anyway, going over to the market here, people, are you watching that 10-year yield? 3.05 this morning. The market is not going to like this, okay? Is it possible? Someone wrote a question, and I want to answer this real quick. Sorry, I don't remember your name here. But is it possible that the market could adjust to a higher 10-year yield? Sure, it's possible. It's not necessarily the number, but it's the pace at how fast the 10-year yield in this case is rising, or globally bond yields are rising. So if we see a rapid rise in bond yields, more specifically again the 10-year yield, the market's not going to like it at all. To me, the rapid pace of bond yields rising is a clear sign that there is instability in the debt market, which is illiquid and it is insolvent, just like everything else. The whole system is just not real. It's not on the elemental chart, people. You all know that. And there's going to be a terrible, terrible price to pay for this at one point. Anyway, so keep your eye on how fast this 10-year yield is rising here. 3.05, you watch what happened yesterday. We had a pretty hard sell-off in the stock market on that 10-year yield breaking above 3%. Look, eventually this whole thing is going to let loose. And that's going to be that because of that moment of maximum saturation. In other words, like I've said repeatedly, the point where pulling cash into the now is creating so much inflation that it's overwhelming the system. And all it's going to do is wipe out the middle class faster than they're already being exterminated. They're like bugs. They're being wiped out, and they're not doing anything about it. They're not taking to the streets. They're being told to look at this, not at that. The distractions are off the Richter scale right now. You know, focus on this. Don't focus on what's happening to you personally. Look at what's happening to this person, not what's happening to yourself or your community. No, it's a mind screw. It's a psyop on an epic freaking scale. Anyway, 10-year yield $3.05 flat right now. Gold relatively flat this morning. Silver under some pressure. Cryptocurrency doing okay. Bitcoin still over 21,000. Crude oil up over 1% on this strategic reserve fall of like 35%. So look, there's a lot of things that are in play, people. And I know for a fact that if you follow this blog, there's nobody who's more on top of this than you are. You know exactly what's going on. But I'm going to ask you to share this stuff. Get it out there because you're not going to hear this stuff anywhere else. Get it out there, share, and please comment. Comment on the things that I just spoke about. Do you think we are already in a depression or moving towards a depression? But what do you think about this news here? 50% of employers expecting job cuts moving forward, with 30% of U.S. small businesses slated to close by 2023. Does that sound like a recession or a depression to you? Doesn't sound good to me, I can promise you that. People, keep your eye on that 10-year yield. Keep your eye on that MMRI. Okay, link in the description of this video. Free to everybody. You know, that's another thing. There's a chat room right on my website. If you scroll down below the MMRI, you're going to find a chat room there. Participate in that thing. Get involved. That's how you make a difference in the world, is by getting involved in things and speaking out against what you feel is just unjust. And this entire thing right now is a crime in progress here. And like I said, consider the fact that inflation is a byproduct of monetary policy. But you got people here trying to say the Fed is doing a good job, that the Fed is redeemed itself because they're fighting inflation. Show me where that's happening. They're going out of their way to deliberately create more inflation. You can't make any of this stuff up if you try to. It's worse than a science fiction movie or anything else. All right, I'm out of here. I'll see you later.